Hi and welcome to Rose Red Homestead. Today we're going to open this box and I'll be telling you what this is in just a moment. Well, I'll tell you right now. It's onions and we're going to plant them. I want to talk a little bit about onions. This video will go directly to self-reliance and food security. And there's some special things about onions that we need to know. We don't just go order any old onions. So we'll be talking about that, and I'll tell you what we're going to do throughout this video when we come right back. Last year, I had the most successful year growing onions ever. So when we think about putting onions in our garden, think of the number 3. 333, the digit 3 is very applicable to everything we want to think about with onions. First of all, that digit 3 appears in the number 13 because a good onion, a good perfect onion, has 13 layers. And 13 leaves, those stalks that come up like the green onion stalks that we get in the stores. Each of those is a leaf in an onion. And each of those leaves is connected to a layer in the bulb. 13 leaves, 13 layers. So that's one way that the digit 3 is applicable. Another way is that we can grow onions 3 different ways: by seed, by set, or by transplant. Now, I don't know about you. If you have been successful in growing onions from seed, give yourself a big pat on the back. I've never been able to do it, never. I have tried onion sets. Now, onion sets are the little bulbs that you can buy, and they usually come in one of those mesh bags like oranges come in only in miniature. You can get maybe 50 or 100 in a little bag. Those little bulbs were started last year and are now harvested for spring planting this year. What was different about the way I planted onions last year was I just didn't do well with seed. I didn't do well with onion sets, but rather I tried transplants for the very first time, and I was very, very successful. Now, before I tell you a little bit more about that, the last digit, number 3, that is important when we think about onions is that there are 3 different latitudes in the United States that we need to think about, and onion varieties are tied to those 3 latitude ranges. And so we have long day onions, we have intermediate day onions, and we have short day onions. Well, what the heck does that mean? Onions are very remarkable plants. Their growth is directly tied to the number of daylight hours in a day. And first, what happens when you plant an onion, when it develops that little bulb, or when you get a transplant that I'm going to show you in just a minute, then the leaves start growing. And it's only working on putting out those leaves, those long green, they look almost like stems, but in actuality they are leaves. And they will continue to grow the green above the ground until the daylight length reaches a certain point. For long day onions, it's 14 to 16 hours. For intermediate, which is where we live, it's 12 to 14 hours. And then for short days, which would be Arizona, Florida, the lower part of the United States, it's 10 to 12 days. 10 to 12 days in the far south of the country, those are called short day onions because they only need 10 to 12 hours of daylight before the leaves stop growing and the bulb starts to grow. And so it is the length of the daylight hours that triggers the green part above the ground to stop growing and the bulb below the ground to start getting bigger and developing those 13 layers. So what area of the country do you live in? I'm going to put a link below the video sending you to where we buy our onions as of last year. These came from Dixondale Onion Farms out of Texas. And their site and YouTube channel have everything you need to know about onions. And so we bought our transplant onions last year, and they were very successful, and so I'm really excited this year. They came yesterday. The onions come with this little planting guide, came with this planting guide last year. And as I was reading through this, I realized that they are giving directions for the same way that they do it on their acres and acres and acres. And so we don't do it. I have one raised bed right up against the house where we plant onions. And so I don't have long furrows the way they do. So I've modified a couple of things. They also use commercial fertilizer that has way high numbers, 2100 and other things like that. Well, that's up in the range of numbers that I don't use because they are salts and leave things that I don't like into the soil. So the fertilizers that I use, that the numbers are all under 10 to 12 because I use organic fertilizers. So those are the two changes that I make. Pretty much everything else I follow in here. Now, the soil that we want to plant these onions in needs to be just slightly on the acidic side, just barely under 7. And our soil is just a little bit alkaline, and there are some amendments that we can use, but I'm close enough to that we didn't even worry about it last year, and it didn't seem to make any difference. Now, the little area that we're going to be planting in, I went out first thing this morning. I'm not even sure Jim was just leaving to go on errands, and so I used my iPhone. And I got started on preparing the bed. It was cold, so I was in sweats. It's now over 70 degrees, and I've changed my clothes, but I ran out of the raised bed potting soil. And so when Jim was on his errands, he went way up the freeway to a different town because we couldn't find what we like down in our usual stores. And so he went to the next town up the freeway and was able to get a whole truckload of the stuff that we like in bags. And so he's going to join me out there, and we're going to finish that little clip. And of course, I'm not going to have the video run the entire length of an hour showing you how we prepared the bed. Rather, I'm going to run it about 20 times fast. But what you're going to see is that I go in and clean out the weeds first, and then I have a pile of straw at one end. A lot of the surface soil has blown away, so I'll move the straw across the whole bed, and then I start bringing the bags of our potting soil over. But I don't have enough, and so now we have some. Jim is going to come out and help me, and then we're going to continue preparing that bed. I want to show you the onions and how they arrive. So I bought these onions for intermediate. That's what this little tag says, intermediate. And this is a mix of red onions, white onions, 3 or 4 different varieties. I'm really excited about these. They look bedraggled. The root parts are dry. We don't even need to worry about that because the plant is still very much alive, even in something as tiny as this. There's plenty of bulb here to feed the plant, nourish it. Now notice that we have here just 3 leaves. So we have 10 layers to go before this one will be ready to harvest. And then this other variety is candy. And this is a sweet onion. Candy actually is for the intermediate area, but it is a general onion as well and works for long day as well as short day, sort of the middle-ish part of the country. And these were so good last year. I can't seem to grow Walla Wallas here, but these candies are just almost as good. And so we're going to head out there and finish preparing the bed. So we use Kellogg's raised bed and potting soil mix. And Jim, where did you get it today? Home Depot?
Home Depot.
Okay, so we can usually get it in our town, but we had to go up the freeway a ways. And so Home Depot has it, usually Lowe's has it, and it is a really good mix. So we're going to go out there and get that done, and then it's already later in the afternoon. I'm not sure we will get to planting. We might wait until I get home from work on Monday and do the planting together. We'll see how it goes. So we're going to head out there and finish the bed. It is a chilly morning, 1st of April, and we are ready to plant onions that just arrived. So I'm going to be needing to prepare this bed. The onion bed is right here by the house. I'm going to show it to you. you can see we have one volunteer from last year. And here is a little chives plant. We're going to leave it in place. A volunteer lettuce. And then just a few little weeds and things that I've got to clear out. Over here, more chives. These are looking really good. My shadow is getting in the way here. Let's see if I can do this a little bit better. Jim has gone into town, so I'm just doing this with my iPhone. And then a mustard plant right there. And so I'm going to be clearing out this bed.
She is leveling off the raised bed by the house so the onions can be planted. There she is.
And here's our decorated climbing wall with all the dead bags from the soil.
We've got to get closer so we can see you.
Yeah, I'm going to start up here. So I have these, I'm filthy. Whoa, this is a work day. I have these two bunches, and I'm just going to leave the intermediate, the tricolor ones, about right there. And I'm going to try to plant these candy ones right here. And the idea is, when these first come, you don't put them in water, you don't put them in your refrigerator, you keep them cool. You can keep them cool for about, just cool like room temperature. For about 2 weeks, you have that planting window, but I'm going to get them in today as much as possible. I may not get them all in. We have soaker hoses, 3 rows of soaker hoses. So essentially what I'm going to do is to try to sort of feel around. This is...
Chives.
Yeah, thank you. These are chives, and they're just doing fantastic. I love these chives. I come out here and get them all the time. Okay, so I just found one hose right here. So I'm going to release the rubber band, and I'm going to poke this candy tag right there. And these have, most of them have, it looks like about 3 leaves. Oh, there's no 2 to 3 leaves. So we have a ways to go. And I just, I like to plant with my bare hands so I can feel stuff. And so I'm just going to poke them in 1 inch, no more. If you poke them in more, then they won't do well. They won't grow the bulbs. Okay, so this one is right here.
Okay, how you doing?
Oh, I'm getting tired.
Yeah.
I may not make it all tonight. But it's going fast.
It's a long way that you've gone.
Yeah. There are some pretty tiny ones here.
Yeah, it kind of looks that way. I'm back. It wasn't on.
Oh, darn.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I blew it. But you are on now.
Okay.
How are you doing?
I'm about reached the end of my energy for today.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah. I'm turning the corner.
Yeah, I noticed that you're turning the corner literally.
I know. I'm going to take those in the house. I'm going to take these in the house. Keep them cool until Monday when I get home from work. And then we can come out and finish. I've just had it for today.
Okay, look up this way. You're on.
Hi.
It's candid camera.
I have started on the second bunch now, so I just have a little ways to go and I'll be done. So it shouldn't be more than about a half an hour, and then Jim can come back. I'm going to then show you what the next step is after I get all these in. I just barely put the last one in the ground. All I have left is just scraps, and I'm going to go mix up a batch of fertilizer, and we'll be back out to fertilize and then water. So I have just mixed up a second bucket, 2-gallon bucket of the fertilizer that I'm going to use on these onions about every week, maybe every 2 weeks. Yeah, I use Neptune's Harvest. This is it. It is a 2-4-2 formula for tomatoes and vegetables, and it worked really well for us last year. This is not cheap, but I think it's probably about right here, the liquid level, which is all that I used last year, so I should get everything this year as well. So I've top watered everything just so that it will allow the fertilizer to get down more. So I just go by every little plant, make sure they get a good starting dose of this. And yes, it's a little bit time consuming, but that's okay because this is organic and I like organic, and I try to be as efficient as possible. So we'll come back and finish up just as soon as I've done all the fertilizing. Well, phew, it's done. So we have about 200 onions planted in this bed, and they are planted and fertilized, and if they all come to full development, we will have more than a year's supply for us. And I will dehydrate some, and I will keep some in mesh bags the way I did last year and use them fresh. So it's a good feeling. I can honestly say this is not easy for me to come home from work and then spend an hour and a half out here digging in the soil and bending over and getting up and down. It's hard. And anyone in my age bracket knows that it is more difficult as we age to get up and down. But I'll tell you what, I feel like it is worth it. I'll sleep well tonight, which is also a good thing. And thinking when I get tired and I want to quit, I just keep thinking of how important it is for us to have a good supply of food on hand for the uncertain conditions in which we are living right now. And thinking of people in other countries who are struggling so much right now with wars and oppression, how blessed we are to live in a place where we have the option of being able to take a couple of hours out of our day and plant some things that will bless our families. So I hope that this has been useful to you. We will check in on our onions from time to time. I'm anxious. I think I am planting them a month later this year than last year. Last year the snow took out a whole lot of them, so I'm hoping for a really good onion crop this year. Thanks for joining us so much, and we appreciate you watching our videos and sharing them with others. So we will see you next time.